All right, let's dive into a truly landmark case from the UK Supreme Court, one that literally took 30 years to reach a conclusion. It's an incredible story about a brutal murder, a family's unbelievable fight for justice, and a huge question: can a state ever really truly investigate itself?
And boom, here it is. This one sentence is the explosive takeaway from the entire saga. It's just a stunning, crystal clear finding from the UK's highest court. It doesn't get more direct than that. So the big question is, how on earth did the court arrive at such a powerful verdict after all that time?
To really get it, we're going to trace the whole story. We'll start with the verdict itself, then we'll get to know the man at the center of it all. After that, we'll follow the long, frustrating trail of investigations, dig into the core legal battle, and then finally look at where things stand today.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the verdict. Honestly, starting at the end is the best way to unlock the entire 30-year history of this case.
So what does all that legal speak actually mean? Well, to put it plainly, it means that every single official attempt to investigate this murder over 3 whole decades just wasn't good enough. It failed to meet the basic legal standard required. Not one, not some, but all of them. And the legal measuring stick the court used is something called Article 2 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, this isn't just about the right to life itself. It's also about the duty the state has to properly investigate when that right is taken away. And the key words there are effective official investigation. That's the bar. And the court found the state just didn't clear it. But this is so much more than a dry legal case, you know? To really understand why it became such a massive, decades-long battle, you have to understand the man at the heart of it. So, who was Pat Finucane? Pat Finucane was a well-known human rights lawyer working in Belfast during a really violent period known as the Troubles. He wasn't afraid to take on controversial cases, even representing people accused of being in the IRA. Then, in February 1989, gunmen broke into his home and shot him 14 times, right in front of his wife and kids. And from the very beginning, his murder was wrapped up in these deeply disturbing allegations of state collusion, basically claims that the killers had help from people inside the police or security forces. That absolutely shocking murder, and all the whispers around it, kicked off this epic search for answers. The Supreme Court case didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was the final stop after a long, long road of frustrating and failed inquiries. You can really see the family's sheer persistence here. I mean, it starts back in the 90s with police inquiries that did in fact find evidence of collusion. Then in 2001, an independent judge flat out recommended a full public inquiry. But it never happened. Instead, years later in 2012, the government set up a review of documents. And while that review confirmed shocking levels of collusion, it still wasn't the public inquiry the family had been fighting for. So if you break it down, you see a clear pattern. Each step confirmed a little more of the story. Yep, state agents were colluding with killers, but each one had a fatal flaw. The police inquiries were too narrow, the Corey recommendation wasn't binding, so the government could just ignore it, and, crucially, the De Silva review was just a review of papers. It had no power to force witnesses to show up and testify. And that last point, that would end up being the absolute core of the Supreme Court's final decision. And that brings us right to the heart of the legal fight, the showdown that finally landed in the UK's highest court. It all boiled down to one question: what does an effective investigation actually look like? The government's argument was basically, hey, look at all these different things we did over the years. If you mush them all together, that counts as a proper investigation. But the Supreme Court took a look at that and gave a hard no. They said the fact that the De Silva review couldn't force key witnesses to testify under oath was a deal breaker. I mean, think about it. How can an investigation be effective if you can't even make people answer questions? So the court drops this bombshell verdict. What's the practical result? What happens next, after the judges have spoken so clearly? For the Finucane family, this was a massive victory, a huge moral vindication after 30 years. But, and this is the critical part, the court didn't actually order the government to hold a public inquiry. It simply said that a legally proper investigation still hasn't happened. And then it tossed the ball back to the government, the very same government whose past efforts were all just ruled inadequate, to decide what to do next. The Finucane judgment is a really powerful statement about the rule of law, no doubt. But it also leaves us with this fundamental and pretty unsettling question that goes way beyond this one tragic case. When the state itself is mixed up in the crime, can it ever truly deliver justice?